Hey guys, there's the old saying, if you want to know what someone truly believes, look at their actions, not what they say, right? Talk is cheap. People say all sorts of bullshit, but then they live a different way. You see this all the time, like the whole green initiative. Oh, we're all going to die unless we give up our airplanes and get the one world government, the whole climate change thing. And then you see people that are advocating this, like Bill Gates and Mark Cuban and Taylor Swift. They have all their private jets and mansions, and they're not going to give it up. So they don't really believe in it. It's just something they say, but then they act different. Or, like a movie star, Leonardo DiCaprio, he's famous for dating really young women. And of course, if you asked him, I'm sure, oh, I love women of all ages, of all sizes, of all races. But then you look what he really does in his personal life, it doesn't line up with that. So, I mean, that's common. But you see this with governments too. For example, just recently in Germany, there was these illegals or migrants into Germany, Muslims, and they gang raped a girl. And I think 8 out of the 9 rapists, they got off with no penalty. But some German lady criticized one of the rapists, and she got put in jail. See, so this shows you what the government really values. They value people coming in and hurting Germans, and they will punish a German objecting. They're at war with their own people. So this is what they will never admit that officially, but you can see that based on their actions. And we seen an example of that just recently with what happened to Julian Assange. He was finally released from prison. He's been in a prison in Britain for the past 5 years. And 7 years before that, he hid in the Ecuador embassy. So 12 years of his life has been basically in prison and in Britain. And you're like, what for? Because, I mean, if you're like a migrant in Britain, you knife attack someone and rape someone, you're probably going to get out right away. They don't really give a shit. So what did he did that was so horrendous? Well, this is a long story. Some of you may have forgot this, but Julian Assange is an Australian, basically a journalist. He decided to create a site called WikiLeaks, where people, if they get confidential documents or leaked documents, they could be like whistleblowers and show what's happening so the public can see. And this came to head with this guy that was named Bradley Manning. He was a homosexual in the United States Army during the Iraq War, and he released information about the United States government that he had that the United States government didn't want released. The government said, oh, there's all sorts of super secrets here. But the main thing, it made the government look bad because there's a video of, I think, a helicopter shooting civilians. And, our propaganda was, oh, we never shoot civilians. Oh, that's just the bad guys. But, this showed otherwise. And so because of that, the United States government, they went after Bradley Manning, who later, because hey, this is now, he calls himself Chelsea Manning, and he identifies as a woman. And so he got arrested, and he's now called a she. And they went after WikiLeaks, Julian Assange. And so that's the background of this. Now, Obama pardoned Chelsea Manning, but they still went after Julian Assange. And they're two different things, because Bradley or Chelsea, whatever you want to call him, he swore an oath. He was part of the military. So I can see going after him, releasing stuff. But part of journalism is, when you get information, is to share it. The public has a right to know, and we have a right to know what's happening in the world. And this is the tension, because if you put everything under national security, what happens? Anything that embarrasses the government declares as a national security risk, and they don't want to be revealed. It doesn't matter if you're North Korea or the United States, that's what will happen. That's why we should have a free press. We no longer have a free press. The press now in the United States acts more like a propaganda outfit. But ideally, it should act like WikiLeaks, where it shows you information so you could be aware of this. So because of this, they were trying to throw Julian Assange into prison basically forever, or maybe the death penalty, which didn't make sense because they allowed Chelsea Manning to go. So there's been a bunch of wrangling back and forth. And eventually, what they came up with, the Biden regime, is, okay, well, Julian, if you plead guilty to a felony, we'll count the time you served in the prison in Britain as time served, and it's exactly the same amount, so it's like 5 years. So basically, plead guilty for this, you get a 5-year prison sentence, but hey, you already served 5 years, so you get out. That's basically the deal. So Julian, even though I don't think he believes he did anything wrong, he's going to plead guilty just so he can get out of this prison, this little tiny cage he's been in for 5 years. I don't blame him. It's really good to see that he's being set free. So, but WikiLeaks has a whole history of causing issues for governments, including the United States. It used to be the darling of the left because Julian exposed some of the corruption in the Iraq War that angered the United States. But there's been other things too. I remember in 2016, I think it was, when there are the primaries in the Democratic Party, and it was supposed to be Hillary Clinton's turn. This was her turn. The empowered woman, break the glass ceiling, all of that type of thing. And she was going to be the Democratic nominee. But all of a sudden, you had this groundswell of support for Bernie Sanders. And all of the young people really were excited on the Democrats for Bernie Sanders. I don't like Bernie, but they loved him, right? They didn't like this old sea hag of Hillary Clinton. And Bernie was getting a lot of support, and it was like, oh my God, he might win the nomination. So the Democrats, they did some basically skullduggery. They rigged the process so Hillary would win the nomination no matter what. And the evidence was in their emails. And the emails got leaked. We don't know officially by who leaked the emails. So we know Chelsea Manning leaked the emails to WikiLeaks concerning Iraq. But concerning Hillary Clinton, we officially don't know, right? The official story came out right away was that it was Putin and the evil Russians. Trump was working with Putin to hack into the email server and show these emails that showed Hillary Clinton's corruption. And it was interesting because the story should have been how corrupt Hillary Clinton was, but the news media, the mainstream news media, decided to totally ignore that story. They decided to focus on how the evil Russians hacked the server. And at the time, WikiLeaks, they have a policy they never reveal their sources. And they said, we're not going to reveal our sources, but it wasn't a foreign entity, meaning like Russia. So WikiLeaks, they said it wasn't basically Russia, but they wouldn't say who it was. But it was really interesting because soon after that happened, the dude that Seth Rich, who was the administrator of the system, the email system for the DNC, he was a big Bernie bro. He supported Bernie Sanders, and he ended up assassinated in Washington, D.C. It was called a robbery gone bad, but the robbers forgot to rob him. They shot him and they forgot to rob him. They didn't take his wallet, watch, or anything. Strange robbery. And it was immediately after that, WikiLeaks, they put out a reward of $20,000 to leading to the arrest of whoever killed Seth Rich. And so a lot of people are like, well, this is suspicious. I mean, you don't know for sure, but here's a guy that's a Bernie supporter. He has access to all the emails. WikiLeaks then gets these emails and they publish them. And Wiki said this didn't come from Russia. And then all of a sudden, the guy that had access to these emails was shot dead by a robbery gone bad. And the reaction by the government and the media was just incredible. It was like, we don't need to investigate this murder. No. And anyone dare suggest that somehow these emails came from Seth Rich instead of Putin, oh, we're going to shut you down. And it was like this huge effort by the government and the media to shut down, even to speculating. I don't know what happened for sure. I'm just saying this is really weird because WikiLeaks never has released a reward for the arrest of someone, and people are killed all the time. So this is just bizarre why they would just right after when this happens say, hey, here's a reward for anyone who catches his killer. I mean, we're not saying who gave us this information because we have a confidential policy, wink, wink, but hey, we're putting out a reward for find the killer of this guy. That's really strange. And at least you should be able to discuss it. But man, they did everything they could to silence people, censor people. That's one of the first times I had a video censored on YouTube. They came so hard on this. And Fox News got sued by Seth Rich's family. They had to pay 7 figures. It was just like incredible. And it was just, this is supposed to be an open country where you debate this stuff. And they were just so angry with Wiki and Julian Assange, how these emails somehow were received by Wiki and they published them that showed Hillary Clinton's corruption. So I think that led into a part of this too with Julian Assange, why they wanted to literally put him to death. Meanwhile, letting Chelsea Manning, the guy that actually leaked the information, they pardoned him. Obama pardoned him. So there's been a lot of stuff going into this. And this whole episode shows how we're not really in the West free like we want to think we are. The government really controls much of the media. And a lot of the media, they're just lapdogs. They will just repeat the government's position. And if you even speculate on something that the government doesn't like, they're going to come down on you hard. So it was good that Assange was released. He had to plead guilty as part of the kangaroo court type of thing. But at least he's free now. And this whole episode was shameful about how the government was trying to hide information that embarrassed them when it came to Iraq, that whole war. And then also what embarrassed them with the Hillary Clinton emails and how they screwed over Bernie Sanders. It was a messy episode in this country's history. Talk to you guys later.